Okay, so thank you, Mr. President, for your inspiring message of solidarity. Next, I have the honor of introducing our esteemed panelists, the champions of open governance. Today, we are fortunate to have the current Open Government Partnerships Chief of Global Programs and Interim CEO. As OGP's Chief of Global Programs, our panelist leads the implementation of the strategy for OGP engagement with and strategic support of all OGP stakeholders at the global level. A round of applause for Mr. Paul Maassen. Sir, welcome to our shores. And we are also glad to have with us Philippine OGP Steering Committee Co-Chairperson, who has over 30 years of experience in the development sector, empowering people, especially women, youth, and children, to realize their role in development. Let us all welcome the Executive Director of Malayang Lapian ng mga Kababaihan Incorporated, or Malayaka, Ms. Aurora Arao Reyes Chavez. And our next panelist is the governor of the local government unit, which is the first LGU to be selected to join the OGP local program back in 2018. Through the province's action plan, it continues to advance commitments related to youth participation. And let us all welcome South Cotabato Governor Reynaldo Tamayo Jr. And last but not least, joining our press conference today is a staunch advocate of reforms to further promote good governance, fiscal transparency, and accountability. Since day one as Secretary of the Department of Budget and Management, she has consistently championed reforms such as digitalization, climate change, green public procurement, and open government. The other day, we learned that the Implementing Rules and Regulations, or IRR, of the new Government Procurement Act has been approved by the Government Procurement Policy Board under her leadership. This is certainly good news for us, as the NGPA will revolutionize our public procurement system and open it up to ensure efficient and effective public service. In fact, the NGPA has been hailed as the biggest anti-corruption measure in modern times. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Philippine OGP Steering Committee Chairperson and OGP Steering Committee Member DBM Secretary Amenah F. Pangandaman. Again, all right, so there we have them. Again, I welcome all our panelists and I thank you for joining our panel. And now we will open the floor to questions from our media partners. Kindly raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. And please state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Further, please be reminded that only questions on the OGP and the regional meeting will be entertained. So kindly limit your queries on these topics. All right. Okay, may we see a show of hands? Okay, so I believe we have Miss Jenny Red of the Philippine Information Agency.
Hi, good afternoon, Sec Pangandaman, Jenny po from PIA. Congratulations on a wonderful hosting of the OGP regional meeting so far, but we would like to know specifically what will be the gains of the Philippines, specifically in terms of introducing innovations in reform and government from hosting this regional meeting.
Thank you. Good afternoon. With more than 200 international participants in the region, together with of course the academe and our development partners, this platform will give us the opportunity to discuss, well, first to talk about our reforms in the Philippines and hopefully be an inspiration in the region. And second, get to know some best practices among our peers, and just for us to be able to come up, develop, and update our reform. So yeah, there's just two things that really what we want to, well, it's something that we'll be able to take given this meeting. And also, I've been talking about this since day one. I mean, in the country, we have institutionalized open government partnership. It's a long way to go before we can actually mainstream this in the national agencies, across all national government agencies, and even localize it. There are 5 local members right now. There are more than 1,400 municipalities. Gov, did I get it right? 1,400 municipalities in the country. So this is a nice platform to show the people, our stakeholders, that we have sort of a platform, an exchange. We have a medium like this for us to be able to push forward our commitment on open government. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that question, and thank you, Secretary. Next, we have here a question from Mr. Ian Sigaral of Inquirer. So this is directed to Sir Paul Maassen. What are the expectations of the Open Government Partnership with this regional meeting?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. It's a great question. I mean, one of the core ideas of OGP really is the importance of dialogue and partnership. It is the essence of what we are about. And through those dialogues, you get ideas and inspiration from one another. That is what we usually do on meetings like this, where we have government and civil society members coming together. We're all implementing reforms at home, sometimes together, sometimes in splendid isolation. But it's really important to work together and learn from each other, and that is what we have here today. And that idea of partnership, of dialogue, is probably more important today than ever. A key tool for that in our strategy as the Open Government Partnership is what we call the Open Gov Challenge. That is a global campaign with the idea to challenge governments, primarily, and local governments as well as national, to bring us more ambitious commitments, bigger reforms about the most important topics of today, whether it's climate change or digital transformation or opening up justice. Those are really important topics that are complex to tackle, and we have to work together to do so. The most important, most inspiring reforms that we find globally, we will showcase later in the year at our next global summit, which is something like this regional meeting, but then for our global community in October in Spain, where the best challenge commitments will receive Open Government Awards. Regional meetings like this are not just about talk, though. They are also about action, because that is the idea of OGP, to really turn conversations into commitments and commitments into real difference in people's lives. That is, in the end, what it is about to make government open. These are confusing and complex and transformational times. Old truths might no longer hold. So we need new coalitions. We need new ideas. We need to work together. This is a moment to step up, not to step back. And OGP is the platform just for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Paul. And for our next question, we have Mr. Matt Dilangeli of Rising Tigers.
Hello. So, good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm Matt Dilangeli from Rising Tigers magazine. This question is addressed to Governor Reynaldo Tamayo. Good afternoon, Governor. So, what role do provincial governments in the Philippines play in the open government movement, and how can local governance practices be improved to meet OGP standards?
Actually, South Cotabato is the first local government that engaged in OGP. That was actually in the previous administration before my administration. Governor Daisy started the OGP partnership, and when I assume office, I continue the OGP. In South Cotabato, we have the two pilot project in OGP, the open contracting and open monitoring. In open contracting, we involve the civil society organization in the bidding process. They are part of the Bids and Awards Committee. They observe as we online the process of open online the process of bidding. So it can assure the public that there is no negotiated bidding or fake bidding that will happen in our province. So with the process of the CSO, in the presence of the CSO, we assure that the bidding is good, and we can get the lowest bidder and the quality bidder. Then we have also the open monitoring. So we created provincial project monitoring committee, the composed of 11 members. The chairman of that committee is from the CSO, and the member of the CSO in that committee is almost 50%, 5 out of 11. So they are the one who scrutinize, monitor the project, and if the contractor has a negative 15 negative slippage or above, they cannot bid for another project for a year. They will be banned in our province. So that's what we did in our province, and we can assure that through this provincial project monitoring committee, the contractor can deliver standard materials, quality job, at the same time on the right timing, no? So ganun yung ginawa natin sa province of South Cotabato. So I think malaking tulong siya. It really give a big help in our province, no? So that's why right now, to enhance these projects and programs, we established a CSO Academy, wherein we capacitate our CSO representatives to deal in the government processes. So hindi lang ito yung tatango-tango, kundi ito'y talaga may involve talaga sa process dahil dumaan sila sa process, sa academy. So that is why I also encourage the OGP to also create an OGP CSO Academy to really equip and capacitate the CSO representatives, because right now the direction of the OGP is to really involve the private sector, to really involve the citizen. So in order to involve them in the process, they should be equipped, they should be capacitated in order to get equality output in the process.
Thank you very much, Governor, for sharing your initiatives in South Cotabato. Another question will be addressed to Ms. Aurora Chavez. So, can you please share some unique cases of OGP success stories in the Philippines that you think other neighboring countries in the Asia-Pacific region can emulate?
Okay. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for that very nice question. Okay. It's very fortunate that I am a part of the steering com from the 4th, 5th, and 6th NAP. However, in my 2 previous membership, I represent the CSOs for Luzon. But right now, I represent the women's sector. Okay. It's a long process for us. So, as I can say, this term that we have now, I think, is a good mix. We learned from 2012 up to now. Some of the notable experiences that we, coming from the CSOs, I believe, is really examples of open government is, for example, the conduct of the OGPNAS, where members of their steering committees were able to share our experiences. We go to the different provinces, and then CSOs from there also give their feedback, their experiences. Another also is the development of our 6th NAP. It's a very highly consultative process. Initially, we gave a survey from different CSOs all over the country. And then we asked them, what are your priority agenda? So it was indeed a long list, but we consolidated it. We cannot, of course, use all of them. And then when we had the most pressing or priority agenda, this is what we called the citizens' agenda. This we now share to the government agencies that are interested to be part of the government, the open government partnership. That was the basis for their commitments. So that's another one. Another is also our, of course, regular STIRCOM meeting, where updates in the implementation of the National Action Plan is being reported. And also, if there are issues, we resolve it there. What I'd like to say is that I'm very happy that my chair is someone who really listens. Yes, whenever I have something or any issue we have, she's always there to listen. Sometimes nakukulitan na din, pero nakikinig. What's important is nakikinig because, right, it's a collaboration. I think the most important ingredient with the relationship is the collaboration. No? Because of that, we can have really, though siguro naman hindi kaagad okay, di ba? But then along the way, we were able to resolve issues and then come up with something that is impactful. No? So aside from that, the one that's being part of the commitment of the ILG, the GYAO, because it's being held really in the provinces. What else? The strengthening of CSOs. They conduct capacity building for all CSOs. And actually, there are so many. Yeah. So the problem is, the people in the grassroots, in the community, are not aware that these small activities are all part of the open government partnership. And that's one thing, Secretary, Madam Chair, that we have to really pursue so that everyone will be on board and that they say, oh, I'm part pala ng open government partnership. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you po, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Sir Matt, and thank you, Ms. Aurora. Another question here, we have Ms. Vel Custodio of PTV.
Good afternoon, everyone. Vel Custodio from PTV. This question will be directed to Secretary Mina. You mentioned that the passage of the new Government Procurement Act is one of the fruits of the open government in recent years. How did open government influence the preparation of the NGPA, and how could this new law bring improvement to the government procurement systems?
You know, the government procurement law, it's an amendment of an existing law. It's a 20-year-old law. When it was passed, I was just, I'll make kwento lang. I was just a young legislative staff in the Senate. And then I saw how they were able to pass a bill with the help of civil society, of private organizations, of non-government units, together with the legislators and the national government. So when I entered this administration as your budget secretary, among the clamor during that time, of course, you're familiar with the issues on the problems in our procurement system, is to really amend the 20-year-old law. So the first thing I did is I asked our development partners to come up with a study together with our friends and partners, if they can at least provide me something concrete and whatever kind of amendments or provision that they like to include, because we want to also modernize our procurement system. So it went through a lot of process. I've been going in and out of the country and even around the country just to get their inputs before we were able to craft the amendment to the procurement law. Again, I just borrowed the same model from my previous boss, that's Senate President Edgardo J. Angara then. incidentally, the father of Secretary Angara, he was the one who pushed for that reform. Now he's a secretary, so he will use the procurement law now. So there. So I was able to get the support of everyone, and in just less than a year, we were able to pass the law. So you see how partnership really helps in pushing for reforms. So there. So during that time, there was no, there are, they mentioned about the pillars on open contracting, they mentioned about beneficial ownership, they mentioned about CSO participation, citizens participation, but it's not provided for in the previous law. So now in our new law, it's already there. It's we strengthen, in fact, the participation of the civil society in all the stages of our procurement process. Thank you.
I have another question. I believe anyone can answer this. So, what are the public service improvements that the OJP is focusing, especially for fostering Bagong Pilipinas vision?
All right, thank you.
Actually, can I speak Tagalog? Actually, ganito yan. When we started nung sinimula namin yung OGP, actually napakahirap kasi tinatanong namin yung tao, ano ba yung gusto ninyo? Ano ba yung pwede? Kasi it's a partnership between the citizen and the government. So ang Bagong Pilipinas kasi, ang target kasi ng Pangulo, kailangan i-reach out natin. We should reach out our citizen, our constituents, kung anong pwede may tulong ng government. Ang Pangulo natin, palagi naglilisan yan sa boses ng taong bayan. Kaya palagi yung sinasabi, nakikinig ang Pangulo sa kung anong sinasabi ng taong bayan. Sa probinsya ng South Cotabato, because of this OGP, nung tinanong nila kami, Governor, kailangan namin ng ganitong serbisyo. Kailangan ito i-set aside ito yung pangunahin. I-set aside mo ito yung dapat. So dahil dyan, sa South Cotabato, nagkaroon kami ng free education, as I mentioned earlier in the plenary. We have free education from elementary, high school, up to college in a private school. And hindi mo na kailangan, the students don't need to go to any politicians. They just go to school, then avail the scholarship. So, nagkaroon ng free education doon sa South Cotabato because of this OGP, which is also the direction. And also, in South Cotabato, one of the direction of the President is the universal health care. So, ang South Cotabato, ito yung pilot, sandbox ng universal health care. So, in South Cotabato, we have free hospitalization. So, pag pumasok ka sa government hospital, at may refer ka sa private hospital ng provincial government, automatically, shouldered ng government yan dahil yan yung gusto ng tao. So ito yung sinabi ng tao, ito yung sinabi nila during our town hall meeting. We always conduct a town hall meeting that is part of OGP, the integrity circle. So usually gumagawa kami ng mga town hall meetings. At ito yung lumabas during town hall meetings. So, imposible, pero because of the participation of community, kung saan pwedeng isakripisyo, ito yung nangyari sa probinsya ng South Cotabato. And it is really aligned to the direction of the administration of President Bongbong Marcos.
All right, thank you so much, Gov. And for our next question, I believe we have Ms. Obre Inosante from Business World.
Good afternoon. I'm Aubrey again from Business World. So I want to direct my question to Mr. Paul. How would you assess the progress of the open government initiatives in the Asia-Pacific region over the past few years? And for my second question, just an additional, how would we measure the progress of this meeting? Thank you.
Wow, that's an excellent question. Excellent, not because it's difficult, but to look forward, you have to look back, right? You have to understand what's working and not working. If we look at our own numbers, our own data, a couple of things. Not surprisingly, we see good things and things where there are challenges and things that could be better. Some of the good things is it's a very dynamic membership. With over the 13 years that OGP has been active in this region, there's more than 70 action plans, more than 750 commitments. So a lot of commitments, reform commitments have been made. About half of the countries have established a multi-stakeholder forum, which is this core idea of OGP that you have to have a permanent dialogue between government, civil society, the private sector, to build trust and to work on these reforms. Half of the countries already do that. If you look thematically, policy areas, we know that fiscal transparency, fiscal openness, justice, anti-corruption are some of the themes that they're very strong. I think OGP comes alive when I give examples. So I'll give you a few examples from the region. Australia, for example, has established governance mechanisms for safe and responsible use of automated decision making. That's a technical term, but it's like when government automatically makes a decision about a citizen. That brings efficiency. It helps with government deliberations, but there's also a risk in there. So how do you do that automated decision making in a safe and responsible way? And Australia has been leading on that. Amenah is developing a legislative framework for data policy. More and more governments are starting to use data, big data. How do you look at it from a legislative perspective? Indonesia was the first in the region to launch a beneficial ownership registry, which is really important if you want to understand who in the end benefits from companies and resources, who is behind those company structures, who in the end profits. New Zealand committed to a charter on algorithms. Almost every country in the world is thinking through algorithms, artificial intelligence. At the same time, most countries are also struggling with what are the guidelines, the ethical frameworks around it. And that is what New Zealand is working on. And Mongolia improved the publication of public procurement data, which is also important because it's a country rich of resources. So you want to know how the money moves around in the country. Korea, final to last example, launched a platform to facilitate public dialogue and public engagement on policymaking across all policy areas. They're really advanced on that. And the final example in our founding members in the region, Indonesia and the Philippines, you can see that they have been at this journey the longest by the energy and the inspiration they bring across all levels and branches of government. It's not just one ministry or just the executive national level. Across government, you see activity and engagement. So that's very, very important, including at the local level where government comes closest to the citizens. So that's all the positive examples. Where are the challenges? One of the challenges is the global economic, environmental, democracy challenges. I think you see that globally, you see it here in the region as well. And that translates for us in that we don't see enough countries in the region being allowed to join the partnership. We have criteria that you need to meet before you can join. Not everyone can. Within the membership, we see that Kyrgyz Republic, for example, or Sri Lanka are not active enough. They started well, and then they stopped doing open government. We have a country like Georgia, where the democracy concerns, the civic space concerns are so strong that we have to suspend them from the partnership, so they can no longer participate for the moment. So, in summary, getting members to step up, be more ambitious, show more leadership at home and in the region is really important if we want to deliver on the promise of open government.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Sir Paul. I believe for our next question, we have Ms. Ruth Gita of the Philippine News Agency.
Hello, for Ma'am Chavez. How do you see civil society's role in advancing open government initiatives? And what strategies have been proven most effective in raising public awareness and engagement?
Thank you. As I've said, we now expanded the membership, the CSO membership in the steering com. So we included now 2 basic sectors, youth and women, and thematic representatives that represents environment and climate change, and the last one is on justice. So with that, we try to really involve more CSOs in the steering committee. When we joined the steering committee, of course, what we put on the table are the issues and concerns of our sector and of our communities. So with that, we are hoping that we will be able to come up with positive reforms so that the issues and concerns, of course, of our sectors and communities will be addressed. Now, even in our local or in the community, we also advocate for the localization of OGP national commitments. Not because we have this national action plan, we are just talking about here at the national level. But as much as possible, we try to bring it down to the local because, as I've said, I believe that the most natural starting point of OGP is at the local. Yes. And that I believe also in locally led development. Unless, if you think about it, most of the targets in our commitments here at the national, we get their accomplishments at the local. But unfortunately, people in the community cannot connect it. So it's our job, the civil society organization, to really put them on board, explain to them that all these things are actually part of the National Action Plan. And even what they're doing in the community is actually open governance. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Thank you, ma'am. For my last question, to Sec Pangandaman, you earlier expressed your intent to make the Philippines #1 worldwide for budget transparency. I did. What actions the government will make to position the Philippines as the top country in the world for budget transparency and oversight?
Okay, so last year, we presented to the President together with our development partners, ADB, EU, and even UNDP, the PFM roadmap, 2023 to 2028. And in the PFM roadmap, we introduced 11 key areas. And if I may, I'll just enumerate each. First is a planning and budgeting linkage. Second, cash management. Third, public asset management. Fourth, accounting and auditing. Fifth, PFM capacity building. Six, digital PFM. 7, PFM policy and legal framework. 8, public procurement. 9, disaster risk reduction and management. 10, PFM for local government units. And 11, monitoring and evaluation for public expenditure. For the past 2 days, I've been hearing from our civil society organizations the need to make our budget more transparent. So the digital area in the key reforms, in the key areas that I just mentioned, definitely will help us make our budget system more transparent. We are already working on our systems and applications for our integrated financial management information system and our budget treasury management system. It's an online, real-time, which will show our disbursements and all government transactions. And eventually, we will link it to our government procurement. And second, I've been hearing about the monitoring and evaluation. So we will institutionalize monitoring. We have been providing budget for education, for social protection, for health and infrastructure and climate. I think it's about time really to also show the impact of this money, the funding that we give to our people, and which the government provides to our people. So yeah, we will institutionalize our monitoring and evaluation and the digitalization in our PFM processes.
All right, thank you so much, Secretary. And currently, the Secretary is being called for a meeting with the President. However, Yusik Rolly Toledo, head of the Philippines OGP Secretariat, will sit on her behalf. Welcome, sir. Okay, so to proceed with our media Q&A, we have a question here from Reynaldo of Business Mirror. Somebody pass the mic, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rain Alberto from Business Mirror. Maybe Sir Toledo from DBM could answer my question. Since the OGP gathered many countries to share their open government practices, what budget transparency practices that you found interesting or effective for other countries that the DBM could consider adopting here in the Philippines as well?
Okay. Just as a matter of fact, the Philippines is already leading the fiscal transparency initiative. As far as you can see in the open budget survey, we are #1 in Asia and #10 in the world. So I guess we really need to also look at other transparency initiatives from other countries that we can learn from more. But as of now, I think we are the inspiration of other countries, by the way, as far as fiscal transparency is concerned. So as shown in our open budget survey, I just don't know what other transparency initiatives that you want the Philippines to pursue from other countries.
All right, thank you so much, Yusek. And now we are down to our last question. So, last two questions. All right, so next we have here a question from Mr. Stephen Matthew Rowan from Rising Tigers.
Hello, thank you. Good afternoon, Stephen Rowan from Rising Tigers Magazine. This question is directed to the good gentleman, the CEO, Sir Paul Maassen. Question is, how can OGP member countries ensure that open government reforms and initiatives continue despite political transitions and changing leadership?
Another great question. Few thoughts. I think it requires institutional, legal, and civic engagement. On all these three levels, you have to work to make sure agendas are sustainable. First, countries can make sure that the reforms are institutionalized through law, for example, or through policies and public institutions. I think the Philippines Executive Order number 31 is a good example. But also, if you create, for example, an access to information law, or if you have a public participation framework that institutionalizes public participation across government, and you do the same with transparency, then it's harder to turn it back when a new government comes into power. So institutionalizing your reforms is the first. The second one is the importance of that regular dialogue and ongoing collaboration between public officials, civil society, the private sector, other bodies. If that conversation is permanent and also institutionalized, you also safeguard the conversation coming to a halt when a new administration comes into power. And the third one, whenever there's a moment of transition, all actors involved should think not about what they find important, but for a second, step back and look at what the new administration finds important and think through how can open government help with their agenda. So try to think from the perspective of the agenda of the other side. Final sentence, I mean, the best way, in the end, the best way to get sustainability for open government reforms is to ensure that the reforms you make a real difference in the daily lives of people. If something makes a difference in the real daily lives of people, no one wants to take it away.
Thank you so much, Sir Paul. And down to our last question. So this is from a netizen watching our live stream on Facebook, Mr. Steven Canlas. This question is directed to Governor Tamayo. How will you invite your fellow governors and local chief executives to become champions of open government? I hope that they will become like you, Gov.
Actually, to inform everybody, I am the President of the League of Provinces of the Philippines, the National Chairman of Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines. We always discuss these programs in our league. And actually, we're doing this locally. So we used to go to provinces and ask for their good practices in their provinces. Then we are trying to replicate those good practices in our provinces. Those programs in good practices that is applicable. That is applicable to some provinces. We are replicating it. Just like in my province, some provinces in this country we're already replicating those good practices. And there are some good practices also from other provinces who I'm trying also to replicate it in my province, especially the livelihood programs in Davao del Norte. So I'm also trying to replicate those good practices. So in this OGP style, we also replicate this system and this program locally in the League of Provinces of the Philippines. So, and also I'm encouraging those provinces to really enroll in the OGP, and they are also willing to join OGP. Most of the provinces are really willing to join the OGP.
All right, thank you so much, Gov. And this concludes our press conference of the OGP Asia and the Pacific Regional Conference. Oh, we have a follow-up question. All right. All right, ma'am. Thank you. You may proceed. Last question.
Hello
Thank
po
you.
again. I'm Aubrey again. Yes po. To Ms. Chavez, in the meeting earlier with the representatives from civil societies, Mr. Suleiman mentioned about the red tag civil societies in the country, as well as Ms. Magno, who said that the presence of spaces of participation in the whole value chain is needed, and it is crucial for civil societies to have independence and additional participation, not just for consultation. So may we get like, with this meeting, do we expect better participation or better consultation or a bigger role from the civil societies
Okay, thank
in the
you.
future? Thank
Yes.
you.
It is our primary, I think, role to really engage with the government. Though, admittedly, it's not always smooth sailing, but then we really need to engage. We cannot have, I mean, we cannot go with what we're doing separately, but we really need to engage. I think having been part of the steering committee for so long is a testament that we're serious also in our engagement. And even among us CSOs, we also really need to police our ranks. I mean, we also, yes, we also said that we have to have a legal personality if we need to be accredited, so that we also show to the government side and to the even local governments that we should also practice transparency, accountability, even among our ranks. Now, with regards to the issue on red tagging and everything, I think we just need to have more conversations. Yes, because I think there are just instances that there are gray areas that has to be, smoothened out. Even with CHR, we've already raised it before, and then they said that there should have a law on, I do not know what they're going to call it, because as of now, we cannot really, they don't really have a clear definition of what red tagging is, because we're asking them, can you give us a certificate that we're not doing this? And then CHR said, but what is really red tagging? No? So I think this is not something that has to be discussed at the community level, but at the national level, so that everything will be clarified. But then always, as I've said, it's the duty, our responsibilities, the CSOs, to really engage. So yon. But then, yun nga, kahit may mga ganyang hindrances, we are still here because we are really serious on our, to engage with the government and be part of governance.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. And I believe we have no more additional questions. And with that, this concludes our press conference of the OGP Asia and the Pacific Regional Conference. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, this is Assistant Secretary Faith Tigui, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.